Hi, I'm Zach. I run the Vannonball race team in 24 Hours of Lemons. The best way to describe myself is that I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. I have spent months, honestly, trying to figure out how to make this video. And I've decided that the way that it's actually going to happen, because I need to make it happen in the next week or so, is we're going to watch some of the footage that has been put out by other people, and I will react to it, tell you the stories, add more context. So we're just going to do that. Lemons wrap up of NCM 2022. All right, so for context, this is our first race. And the van was already owned. We already had it. It had been in our backyard for a long time. They'll tell the whole story about it later. Bowling Green is my home track. It's only about 45 minutes down the road from where I am right now.
Special trophy is the How Do You Know When a Minivan is a Race Car Award, and it went to Rad Dad Racing.
We spent a lot of time trying to nail a good theme and then completely ignored it once we got to the racetrack and realized that we had a lot of other things to do besides dress up. We started with Bad Dad Racing, which was my thought was, let's just do a bunch of stereotypical bad dad stuff. Make jokes about leaving for milk and cigarettes and whatever. And we kept making these jokes and it just started feeling really heavy and negative. So then my thought was, okay, let's go Rad Dad. Let's be the coolest dad 1985 ever saw. And we also ignored that because we got so into racing and worrying about the car that we didn't do anything theme-wise.
The punchline, by the way, is when it's apparent. So their whole theme is dad jokes and it's great. But what really is awesome here is they are racing a 2005 Caravan.
It's a Dodge Grand Caravan. This is very important. It's like 13 inches longer and totally different if you ask Dodge for parts.
And this thing actually kind of works.
Kind of works. My memory of it is that we didn't get a single lap on Saturday. If we did, maybe 10 or 12. This is one of my favorite people in this whole endeavor, is a guy named Britt from Florida. And as I understand it, Britt either worked in the factory when the van was built, or he knows, weirdly enough, Dodge Grand Caravans really well. And Britt was about three garages down from us at Bowling Green, and we kept coming in. We were having a very strange situation. The van would start and it would roll, but if you put anything more than like just the weight of your foot, if you push down on the throttle pedal at all, it would stutter and fight and it wouldn't accelerate. And you could get up to about 45 miles an hour if you just left your foot on the throttle and didn't ask for anything more than, just the littlest bit of acceleration. We get up to about 45. But on the racetrack, of course, you'd get there and then you'd have to brake, and then we couldn't do it. And so we did some slow laps, and we started trying to figure out what it is. I had fought this problem for months thinking it was a fueling issue, but we had fixed everything in the fueling, and the fuel was working fine. We had fuel pressure. We knew all of that. My memory of this, and I don't know if Britt would tell the story different. I'd love to hear his version of it. My memory of it is that Britt saw us struggling, walked in, said, "Oh, your crank sensor's screwed up," reached into the guts of my car, did something with his hand, and then it started running again. And he goes, "Oh yeah, no, your crank sensor's too bar. It's like $20 at AutoZone. Go get one." So we did, and that's what we did. We got it out there, and we sent the van out to limp around for a little while somebody ran to the parts store to get a crank sensor. Of course, the theme of the van is there's always parts. There's a billion of these out there, and I can always get the parts I need, thank goodness. But a crank sensor. So we go get a crank sensor, we come back, we put in the new crank sensor. It seems to work for about 10 minutes. Pull it back in, and we figure, okay, something is screwing the system entirely. We're just going to go through crank sensors, which at $20 a pop, let's regard them as a consumable for a while. Why not? So we send them to AutoZone to pick up 3 more crank sensors. And then my buddy Neil, who's in this video, or maybe another one, looking very much like a race car driver with a mustache and a cigarette. And he's very svelte. He reaches in to put the crank sensor and goes, you know, this clip is kind of funky. It's loose. And he goes, let me zip tie this in. And what we discovered is that the entire problem that had cost us a Saturday, had made me replace the fuel tank in the van, rerun all the power to the fuel pump, all of it, was because of the plastic holding the crank sensor in place, or the plug in place, had degraded to the point where it wouldn't hold. So we zip tied it, and the van ran like a champ for the rest of Saturday, the rest of Sunday, which is why I assumed whoever does Jay's recon told him that the van ran great, because it did not. We did 85 laps in 2 days. We came in, Brad Dad Racing came in 72 of 79 at NCM. Let's go back to the video and see what else they say.
They hosted the potluck at this race, which was fantastic.
So first, I love hosting the potlucks. It is as much fun to me as it is racing. People, I think, try to avoid it because they think it's super hard. It's not. It's really, you show up with a grill, you make sure there's enough hot dogs or some sort of protein for everybody to be happy, and you encourage other people to bring something, and then you just enjoy the party. I love hosting the potluck. The van, being its first race out, being a minivan, was very popular, and we hosted the potluck literally kind of around it and found every little nook and cranny that you can crack a beer bottle on. I found every single place I can open a beer bottle anywhere in that van. The potluck was awesome, and we ran out of taco. I thought I was going to feed about 40 people, and over 100 showed up. I was thrilled. And Jay is about to say something. I don't remember having this planned this early, but apparently it was already in my mind.
But I think best of all, they have a scheme coming up. They're going to do a national road trip with this car, and that has never gone wrong with a Chrysler product before.
Okay, context. If you're not a Lemons person, in 2014, 2013, there was a car called the K It Forward. It was a K car of some design, a station wagon, and they toured it across the country basically because it was so terrible. Teams kept pawning it off on each other, and it became something of a white elephant. And then this year, it got tossed off a cliff. And that is the moment when that video went out that I knew, and now I have to do it and prove him wrong. So as soon as I saw this video, I knew that I was screwed. So after that, we went to Road Atlanta. So this race happened 3 months after our first race. It was the first race where I had taken a bunch of arrive and drives. In fact, most of the drivers at that race were their first time. It was their first time in Lemons. But this is where they have begun their traditional dunking on Stellantis and all Stellantis products. So the van gets pride of place by being the first thing they dunk on.
At this race, there was some pretty good representation from the multi-brand conglomerate Stellantis. Now, this is a giant arrangement that includes prestige brands, and at Road Atlanta, we had a lot of representatives from arguably the worst Stellantis brands of them all. First, we had Rad Dad Racing.
You can't put badges on cars if they're not true. So clearly the van is a twin turbo.
Racing in a Dodge Caravan. For starters, it's a round body era Caravan. It's also full of soft little white pellets.
I still have no idea where that foam came from. I think it was something in the air system from the rear blower. I think. I have no idea. It is finally gone.
Anyway, they bribed us with a totally not just bought at the corner gas station surprise birthday party. I wouldn't say that the Caravan was, well driven.
3 black flags in an hour and a half.
The van did run better in this, their second race. It's always hella sweet to see it. Looking forward to seeing them in 2023.
First, the weird paint job was an attempt to make it a birthday cake because that year was Lemon's 16th birthday. What it looks like is not anything. It looks terrible. It was, however, the birth of the very important design detail, the Dodge Power Stripes. Let's see, how did we do at Road Atlanta? Oh, here it is. We came in, it's not bad, 53 of 101. Almost half, almost top half. 53 of 101 with 242 laps. Not terrible. 250, okay. Yeah, it's a pretty good result. I totally forgot that we did that well. And so that was Road Atlanta, last race of 2022. And then we go to 2023.